Hello, it's Dr. Alan Yim. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the melody. So, melodies for the type of music we're going to be studying in Theory 1 are very simple, mostly stepwise, and follow some simple guidelines. And you may think that, well, if we write such simple melodies, are they going to be any good? And I would refer you to maybe something like this. Which of course is the Ode to Joy, the melody for Beethoven's finale of his final symphony, the Ninth Symphony. This is of course a very, very grand melody. It doesn't sound so grand when I play it like that, but when it's sung with choir and it's embellished, it turns out that it's an amazing framework for his compositional genius. So it doesn't hurt to start out simply and then embellish on a framework that is solid, just like building a building on a solid foundation. So what I would normally do is write a melody and then maybe critique it according to whether it falls into the guidelines that are quote unquote the correct ones. So maybe rather than doing that, I will just give you some of the guidelines and then we'll write a melody according to them and see how it sounds. So we'll begin with the rhythm. So the rhythm is going to be simple, just like what you just heard. Simple, one note usually per beat or more. Like, so in other words, you can write usually quarter notes and half notes. Okay, mostly stepwise. You can have leaps, of course, but you want to limit it. So if you listen to something like, this, and here's a leap, and then there's a rest. Everything else is steps, and all steps, and there, that's the first leap. So you can get pretty far with just steps, and actually it keeps the range limited, it's super easy to sing, and it keeps the music from going to range too much. And then when you actually do leap or move out of the range, it sounds so dramatic, and it's such almost a relief when you hear those other notes. I would refer you to listen to something like the Rachmaninoff piano concertos, the opening especially, or something by maybe some Tchaikovsky, like in the early parts of the melodies. They tend to move like a chorale, very, very simply in steps. Okay, mostly stepwise. Then, if you do have leaps, you have to be careful. So leaps, obviously no sevenths, maybe. We're trying to make this easy to sing. See, nothing bigger than an octave. So not bigger than an octave. I should put this in red. And we also want no augmented intervals. It's amazing how difficult these are to sing. So augmented intervals could be something as small as an augmented second, which sounds like a minor third. But if I put it in the context now, okay, so if I put that augmented third in a scale, it might sound something like this. And you could hear it in this harmonic minor scale. That's from lay to ti. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, lay, ti, do. It looks like a step in the music, but when you sing it, it's a minor third, so it actually turns out to be a leap. Highly discourage you to writing that augmented second because it's super hard to sing that. Well, I shouldn't say super hard, but if you're in a choir and you get to that, yeah, they're going to have a mistake. Okay, now let's say you have a leap bigger than a fourth. Okay, so if you have a leap bigger than a fourth, usually you have to change direction after the leap. So in other words, leaps bigger than fourth. How can I say this? I'm just going to write this word, zigzag, okay? And let me show you what I mean by that, because it's kind of a shorthand for what happens. Alright, so suppose you have the melody and it goes something like this. Leaps up a fifth. Okay, we'll put this in treble clef. If you have that leap like this, a fifth, you should approach it from and leave it from the opposite direction like this. It could be a step, it could be something bigger, but it should be like a zigzag. So it goes down, up, and down. And here, the leap bigger than a fourth is this one. Okay, so maybe like this. Right? That helps to keep the voice from going too far out, and it also kind of balances out that leap. So if you continue on in the same direction, like this, you can do it, but that's less common, right? It's more common to step down, maybe to B flat. This looks like it's an F. I don't know why, because of that F there. But let's suppose okay. So there's some idea there. Okay, let's continue on. There are a lot of guidelines here. So I'm going to write a little bit of a shorthand here. The half steps in the scale, T to Do, and a little bit less, but also Fa to Mi. Whoops, can't write 3 and Mi at the same time. Okay, Fa to Mi. These are half steps, and half steps have a strong pull. They lead, now especially T-Do, because that's leading to, you can feel that it wants to keep going up. So that leading tone, we call it, wants to resolve to Do. Okay, and Fa wants to, if I play that, so here's Fa. Can you hear what the next note should be? Okay, if I play these together, you're really going to hear how they want to move. Right? So one resolves up and one resolves down. Alright, do you have to go from T to Do and Fa to Mi? Well, not necessarily, but if you want to avoid going T-Do, you can do this. So here's Do, and here's T. So in the key of F. So Do, T, or 7. Oh, sorry. Okay. Or, let's say, 1, and then 7. So if you do this, if you keep going down the scale like this, that's okay. You can do that, because then you don't hear this. I mean, try not to accent it or anything, but if you can do that, and that's considered to be sort of okay. Alright, what you don't want to do, you definitely don't want to go up the scale like, and then suddenly go away from T, or leap to T and then suddenly like, and then that would be a little bit strange, right? You want to resolve that leading tone, so you use your judgment, but be careful if you have either of these pitches. Okay, 7 or 4. Now, the contour of the melody is probably the most important thing. It involves steps and leaps. It's basically the shape of the melody, how it rises and falls. So it should be simple again, most but not boring. So simple. This is very subjective, but not boring. Okay, so what would be a boring melody? Well, a boring melody might just go up the scale and down. If this was your melody, well, that's not a good melody because it's just up and down the scale. So we don't want to hear that. And same thing, okay, we want to hear a variety of pitches. So you wouldn't want to have a melody that goes. No, that would not be acceptable in classical music. Variety of pitch. Okay. One focal point. So what is a focal point? Well, if you're in design, of course, a focal point might be where you go in the room and your eye goes to that. Or if you're painting a painting, it should have one subject. Or taking a picture, it has one main subject. If you have more than one focal point, your eye doesn't know where to go. So how does this work with your ear? The focal point is usually the highest, but it could also be the lowest, especially for the bass. Lowest pitch. Okay, so if we just take that much, and it could be the range of a phrase, or it could be a range of the entire tune, right? It should have one spot where you're going, and that's the highest pitch again. So let's take Happy Birthday, for example. And that's the focal point, okay? So, all right. So when you take a look at your melodies, look for that focal point and find where it goes, and try to make the shape of the melody as it goes up and down interesting, and have some kind of variety in the pitches. As you become more skilled at this, of course you may have some ideas and some shapes that repeat, but we're not going to be worried about that idea right at the moment. Whoops. Okay. Now, let's see, am I forgetting anything? Well, we might have some chords that go with this melody, so I will just write some. Now you know enough about chords. If I write that, let's say I put this melody in the key of C. We are going to have a chord progression, and soon enough you will know more about this. But let's say I just make a very simple little chord progression, so we can have we can write out maybe a few measures of a melody. So how about 1, 5, 1. So I'm writing it in C, so this will be C, G, C. And how about 4, 2, oh boy, what should I do? Okay, we'll go 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. Okay, so this is the melody of the harmony for the melody that we're going to write. Now, I know that you are just learning about these chord symbols and the chords here, but I do hope that you recognize these symbols below and the ones above. So we have some very simple chords: C, G, C, and then F, D minor, and then C over G. Okay, now we're going to write the melody that goes with this. Trying to make a nice contour, mostly steps. We're going to use half notes, and the one last thing that it has to do is the notes must be in the chords that I have listed here. So you can actually, why don't I make this last one a 7th? We'll give ourselves another option just in case. All right, you can, I don't want to get into too many details here, but let's just go ahead and say that this is for soprano. And we know the soprano range, again, is from this C up to this G. So we're going to keep it in this range, and the range of a melody usually falls with an octave. So try not to make your melody range outside of the octave. Happy Birthday is an octave. The Star Spangled Banner, it goes, that's an octave and a fifth. You don't want your melody to be that wide because it makes it very hard to sing. So I think 8 notes will be enough. And maybe I'll start on this G. So this will be comfortable for a soprano. You can kind of gauge it by this, right? So whenever you're writing a melody, try to keep the range not too close to the extremes. You know, if you stay too close to the high note or too close to the bottom, it's not going to be good for the singer. And there are other details as well, but we won't get into them right now. Okay, you can see that my next choice would be a G or a B. Since G would not be, like if I put this G here, that's keeping the same note over the bar line. That's never a good idea. I'm going to put a B here to make it a little more variety. And maybe I can go a step up. So this is pretty nice for the soprano. Maybe I could go down to F, D. Okay, I need a focal point. I don't want to leap up to F really, but I could. We could make this range all the way up to the G if we wanted to, as long as we don't go down below that G there. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's suppose on the next one, my choices are F, A, and C. Well, how about if I go down to the A? Okay. Okay, maybe I'll put a leap in just for the heck of it. So we'll go here, and then maybe here, and then here, and then here. Okay, so what I tried to do was I tried to put a few more steps in there. These notes are in the chord, and I have one focal point, which is the D, and well, let's see what it sounds like. I don't have any augmented leaps. I do have a leap, a minor third down. Well, I have a leap up a third, and then from the C down a minor third, and then up a fourth. So it's kind of a little bit of leaping going on there. And then steps down and back up. So let's see what it sounds like. Here's the melody in the key of C. Okay, not too exciting, but let's put it with some chords. Oh, wow. Okay, not really thinking about what I'm doing. That bar line's in the wrong place. Okay, the reason why it sounds so funny is the bar line is not quite in the right place. But this probably should go here. And then the next bar line would be here. Well, just use your imagination. Okay, I would have to change this around a little bit, but I wasn't not thinking when I put 151 here. So I might change the rhythm here to make this work. Okay, but okay. This is just an example. I'm going to give you one last rule, and then we will. I will leave it to you to study these and the guidelines, and to write your own melodies and look at some melodies and critique them. So the last one I wanted to say has to do with leaps. Almost forgot it. So if you have leaps that continue on, so continuous leaps in the same direction, must outline or outline a triad. Okay, so going back to our key of F, if I start leaping up like this, my next option is I can go to C or I can go to D. Alright, so my would be okay because that creates an inverted triad. Would be okay as well. What you don't want is something like this. And let me make this a little bit bigger over here so you can see what I'm talking about. You do not want to leap, let's say, a fourth, and then leap another fourth. And you'll hear why in a second. Okay. Okay, well there's a couple things wrong with this because I just wrote an augmented fourth. So that's outlining something that is not a triad. You don't want to do that, okay? And you wouldn't want to leap like a fifth and then a seventh either. It's going to create a seventh. We don't want to outline a seventh in our melodies that way. Okay, that would be something great for a contemporary piece, but we're going to avoid that. So if you have small leaps going in the same direction, make sure they create a triad. That's it for this video. I hope you understand everything that I said in this, and I will see you in class. Thank you.